So, what are the differences between these four hotels?
Well, the main difference is in the facilities they offer. The Hotel Sunshine is the only one which has a gym, and it's also got one of the top health spas in the area. It's next to a lake, so you can do water sports there. But if you really like sailing or water skiing, then the Highland Hotel would probably be the best place because it offers great instruction programs in these sports.
Actually, I'm not a sporty person.
OK. Well, what about the Hotel Carminia? It's a brand new hotel and it prides itself on its cinema and multimedia centre. And then there's the Royal. This one has a conference room, a meeting room, and free computer access. But it's not really appropriate for children. There's not much in the way of entertainment.
Well, I'm going on holiday, not to work, and it's just my wife and me, so I think we'll book with the Hotel Carminia, please.
Now I'll very quickly outline current plans for some of the town's facilities, before asking for your comments. As you'll know if you regularly use the car park at the railway station, it's usually full. The railway company applied for permission to replace it with a multi-storey car park, but that was refused. Instead, the company has bought some adjoining land, and this will be used to increase the number of parking spaces. The Grand, the old cinema in the High Street, will close at the end of the year and reopen on a different site. You've probably seen the building under construction. The plan is to have 3 screens with fewer seats rather than just the one large auditorium in the old cinema. I expect many of you shop in the indoor market. It's become more and more shabby looking, and because of fears about safety, it was threatened with demolition. The good news is that it will close for 6 weeks to be made safe and redecorated, and the improved building will open in July. Lots of people use the library, including school and college students who go there to study. The council has managed to secure funding to keep the library open later into the evening, twice a week. We would like to enlarge the building in the not-too-distant future, but this is by no means definite. There's no limit on access to the nature reserve on the edge of town, and this will continue to be the case. What will change, though, is that the council will no longer be in charge of the area. Instead, it will become the responsibility of a national body that administers most nature reserves in the country. OK, now let me ask you if you have...
Good morning and welcome to the museum. One with a remarkable range of exhibits which I'm sure you'll enjoy. My name's Greg, and I'll tell you about the various collections as we go around. But before we go, let me just give you a taste of what we have here. Well, for one thing, we have a fine collection of 20th and 21st century paintings, many by very well-known artists. I'm sure you'll recognize several of the paintings. This is the gallery that attracts the largest number of visitors, so it's best to go in early in the day before the crowds arrive. Then there are the 19th century paintings. The museum was opened in the middle of that century, and several of the artists each donated one work to get the museum started, as it were. So they're of special interest to us. We feel closer to them than to other works. The sculpture gallery has a number of fine exhibits, but I'm afraid it's currently closed for refurbishment. You'll need to come back next year to see it properly, but a number of the sculptures have been moved to other parts of the museum. Around the World is a temporary exhibition. You've probably seen something about it on TV or in the newspapers. It's created a great deal of interest because it presents objects from every continent and many countries and provides information about their social context, why they were made, who for, and so on. Then there's the collection of coins. This is what you might call a focused specialist collection because all the coins come from this country and were produced between 2,000 and 1,000 years ago. And many of them were discovered by ordinary people digging their gardens and donated to the museum. All our porcelain and glass was left to the museum by its founder when he died in 1878, and in the terms of his will, we're not allowed to add anything to that collection. He believed it was perfect in itself, and we don't see any reason to disagree.
And now, moving on to the Central Park Playground, which we're pleased to announce has just won the Douglas Award for Safety. The news came through only last week. The unique design is based on the concept of the global village, with the playground being divided into 6 areas showing different parts of the world, each with a representative feature. For example, there is a section on Asia, and this is represented by rides and equipment in the shape of snakes, orangutans, tigers and so on, fauna native to the forests of the region. Moving south to the Antarctic, we couldn't run to an ice rink, I'm afraid, but opted instead for climbing blocks in the shape of mountains. I thought they could have had slides for the glaciers, but the designers did want to avoid being too literal. Then on to South America, and here the theme is El Dorado, games replicating the search for mines full of precious stones. And then, moving up to North America, here there was considerable debate. I know the contribution of cinema and jazz was considered, but the designers finally opted for rockets and the International Space Station. Eastwards to Europe then, and perhaps the most traditional choice of all the areas, medieval castles and other fortifications. Then last but not least, moving south to Africa, and a whole set of wonderful mosaics and trails to represent the great rivers of this fascinating and varied continent. Now, the opening date for our global playground is the 10th of July, and again, we'd love to see you there. So, make a date and come and see this magnificent, original new amenity right in the heart of the city.
Today, we'll be continuing with the theme of renewable energy and the innovations which will make it a more viable and widespread phenomenon in the future. So far, we've covered the emergence of solar power and its increasing popularity. But in this lecture, we shall be looking at wind-powered turbines and considering their impact on the future of green energy. Wind power is seen as being one way of tackling our growing demand for energy. So, what do we need to set up a wind farm? Obviously, wind. Something we're certainly not short of in England. But also, at least for the time being, enormous areas of land often located in natural beauty spots. I'm sure you will have seen the enormous wind turbines as you drive along the coastal roads, looming eyesores out at sea or on nearby hills for miles after mile. These are, ironically, attacked by environmentalists, even though they are seen to be one of the most environmentally friendly solutions currently available. So what do we know about wind turbines? Well, for a start, they come in a variety of different designs. As the impact of environmental policies gathers more momentum, companies are investing a great deal more time and money into developing alternative designs. Today we're going to examine and compare a number of different models already available on the market. HAWT, H-A-W-T, or horizontal axis wind turbines, are the most commonly found on British wind farms. They are constructed of a high steel tower which is between 60 and 90 metres, with 3 revolving blades which range from 20 to 40 metres. Another type of wind turbine which is being piloted at present is the vertical axis turbine. In this lecture, we'll be looking at 2 different models. The experimental ones built and currently being tested by Professor of Bioengineering John DeBerry in his newly established company in California, and the QR5 model, engineered and currently being marketed by a British firm. So, why invest in the development of vertical turbines when there is a comprehensive range of horizontal ones on the market? Well, the vertical models demonstrate a number of indisputable advantages. The most obvious of these is that unlike the horizontal axis turbines, which can require anything up to a mile between them, these models take up considerably less space. DeBerry's model, which he likens to an egg beater, is only 10 metres high, and the internal rotors are a mere 1.2 metres in diameter. Perhaps the thing which makes DeBerry's organisational model particularly fascinating is the fact that it was inspired by the movement, flow, and geometric positioning within shoals of fish. He imitates this by placing the turbines much closer together than the horizontal axis wind turbines. If strategically positioned, the air movement or vortexes which are generated by each of the turbines can benefit the neighbouring ones. So, even though the HAWT models produces much more energy individually, over the same area as a typical Halt wind farm, metre for metre, these vertical turbines collectively can produce 10 times more power. The QR5 model turbine boasts various characteristics which make it one of the up-and-coming models. First of all, it has been designed to work silently and to create minimal vibration, in contrast to the much noisier operation of the horizontal turbine. Secondly, it is probably the most attractive out of the 3 turbines, being a helical or twisted shape, a definite plus if you intend to situate it near an area of natural beauty. Being only 5 metres high and 3 across, it is far more compact than the other 2 models as well. Therefore, and like De Beery's model, it can both operate on top of high buildings and in built-up areas. So far we've covered some basic facts about the type of turbines which are available. Now let's turn to their future impact on energy as a whole.